What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and today we're continuing with our 32-team 7-round mock draft. And as of the 25th of March, we're looking at the team that currently holds the 21st overall pick in the first round, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. They had a higher pick, traded with the Bills to land a player that we're going to talk about in just 1 second, which I thought was a decent move for them. And now they're picking at number 21, and you know, people as an Eagle fan like to chirp me around draft season because of the Bengals, because it seems like literally the last like 3 or 4 drafts in a row, they have gotten a player that I really want the Philadelphia Eagles to get. Last year, it was running back Joe Mixon. Now, I wasn't on the Joe Mixon hype train like, say, another really loud N-bomb dropping Philadelphia Eagle fan, but I thought with the appropriate round when he was there in the 3rd, Philly should have gone up and got him. I mean, now we look in hindsight, I'm fine with Corey Clement in that situation. I don't think many people thought Corey Clement would be the guy he was going to be. Now looks like a very legitimate NFL caliber running back. And they got Carl Lawson last year, and I was a big fan of Carl Lawson. I couldn't believe he slipped to the 4th round. Now he looks like an absolute stud. 2016, Andrew Billings when he slipped from Baylor. Got him again. And then a couple years before that, they got Rex Burkhead, and I thought he was an absolute animal coming out of college. So, you know, the Bengals have been one of those teams that's kind of been a thorn in my side when it comes to players I want Philly to get. They just go ahead and sweep it. But it's going to be the case in this mock draft. But before we jump into that, we need to look at what they did via free agency to set up our draft board. So looking at what they brought in Chris Baker. I'm not going to go and elaborate too much on that because most of you guys know my feelings on Chris Baker. They did a trade to bring in Cordy Glenn, who's going to start at offensive tackle for them, which is a major need. Their offensive line is pretty goddamn horrendous. They re-signed Tyler Eifert on like a 1-year can you stay healthy type deal, so it could prove to be a bargain if he could stay healthy. Him and Andy Dalton once upon a time was one of the most lethal red zone threats in the NFL. And they brought in linebacker Preston Brown. I think he's very solid for a team. And again, much like offensive line, their linebacking core needed to get better. They cut Pac-Man Jones. He's gone. He was old. They lost A.J. McCarron. I think he went to the Bills, so they don't have the backup / trade bait. Jeremy Hill left. That was always pretty much a foregone conclusion. They lost starting center Russell Bodine, and they lost Vontaze Burfict to a 4-game suspension. So an already shaky linebacking core is missing their, you know, you can't rely on him really, but he's their best linebacker by a country mile. So how are we going to fix that in the mock draft? Let's jump into it. They have quite a few picks. So starting in the first round at pick 21, I have them taking probably my dream realistic pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're selecting linebacker Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State. Looking at their roster, fully healthy, he is probably going to be linebacker 2 after Vontaze Burfict. He can play in the middle. He can be your Sam. He probably will be looked upon as their Sam linebacker. I mean, I don't really know how they use Carl Lawson. I'm pretty sure Carl Lawson, according to ourlads.com, which is what I'm using for rough depth chart, Carl Lawson probably should be playing defensive end, but they currently have him listed as the Sam. But either way, with he is going to start day 1. Doesn't matter. He's very versatile. He'll find a spot to start. He's one of the best linebackers in this year's draft class. I think he's in the same territory as like a Tremaine Edmonds and Roquan Smith, even though he's pretty much regarded as like the number 3 linebacker. It's not that far of a gap, and he's going to be an absolute stud for the Bengals. Going to the 2nd round, pick 46, either taking offensive tackle Brian O'Neill from Pitt. I think right away he could come in and compete for that right tackle spot. They did bring in Bobby Hart back, and they have Jake Fisher, who was a 2nd round pick in 2015. Let's be honest, the Bengals have not drafted well in the offensive line. That's putting it bluntly. That's why you had to make a trade for a Cordy Glenn. When you look at their offensive line, they have Cordy Glenn, they have Clint Bowling. That's probably as far as you're going to go for guys that you probably could pencil in and say, yeah, they're all right starters. They're proven starters in the NFL. Even then, there's still some uncertainty with Cordy Glenn about him staying healthy. It's a big habit. But either way, Brian O'Neill was, kind of, along with Desmond Harrison, like the athletic freak at the tackle position. He's one of those converted tight end types. And I'm going to be honest with you, just because I've had success, I don't want to keep, bring this to an Eagles video, but athletic converted tackles work out pretty damn well. Not so much guys that never played tackle and you think you can view them there, but look at like Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, quarterback, played a little bit of offense and stuff like that, skill position. And now he's a tackle and he's an athletic freak. So I think Brian O'Neill has potential. Like he played left tackle at Pitt, but I think when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, he very well could beat out Jake Fisher or whomever for that starting right tackle gig. And he's an incredible athlete and has a very high ceiling because of that. Going to the 3rd round, first of 2. First up at pick 77, I ended up selecting center Frank Ragnow from Arkansas. Now, going offensive line is not sexy, but when TJ Johnson's your starting center, getting a guy like Frank Ragnow in the 3rd round who is pro-ready, and I would bet if they took him here, he would be their starting center come opening day. He's graded out Pro Football Focus as like one of the best centers in college football. I'm pretty sure he won like the award in 2016, so last season, not this previous college season, the year before that, as the best center in college football. Very, very productive. Arkansas has always been a team historically in the SEC that's run the ball particularly well, and I think in the third round, getting starter-level talent, very good pick for the Bengals. Going to their second, third-round pick at number 100, a guy that has surprised many at the NFL Scouting Combine, safety Godwin Igwebuike from Northwestern. Looking at the roster, probably could be strong safety 2, free safety 3, special teamer. How do they view? I just kind of feel like Georgia Loca might be on the cutting block come next offseason. Shawn Williams is solid at best. And, you know, they have Josh Shaw, who's converted corner, trying to play a little safety and stuff like that. But ultimately, there's not a solid foundation there in the Bengals secondary, especially at the safety spot. I feel like you can bring another name into the mix. And we look at Igwebuike. Everyone thought, you know, kind of before the combine, where you know how athletic he was, at least it would test. Kind of played more so like as an in-the-box type guy, less so of a coverage guy, even though he wasn't a liability in coverage. You just saw his build and his play style. He's aggressive, and then he goes ahead and runs like a 4.4, low 4.4 40-yard dash, tests out the park. Really, really helped his draft stock. I thought he was going to go 5th round, but I think now he could go as high as the 3rd, especially for a team like Bengals, might be the best player available, and, you know, add some really good youth to that safety spot and just shore it up, especially if you go 3 safeties on the field, or, you know, he's one of those guys, he's aggressive enough, he's not big enough to kind of fill in, like, you would look at body type and say maybe Georgia Loca could play the money backer type role, but I think Igwebuike is aggressive enough and athletic enough that he could fill in if he wanted to go 3 safeties on the field, but ultimately he presents really, really good depth for the Bengals at the safety spot. Going to the 4th round pick, 112, I was selecting cornerback Greg Stroman from Virginia Tech. Staying on the Pro Football Focus tip, I'm pretty sure he was like top 5. Top 5 Pro Football Focus in coverage. Virginia Tech had really, really an underrated defense. And when you look at their secondary, no more Pac-Man Jones. You have Drake or Patrick. You know, I'm not going to lie, probably hasn't lived up to his contract, hasn't lived up to his first-round draft billing. He's done good enough to hang on to a job. That's probably it. Same goes with Darquise Dennard, another first-round pick. He's been average. I mean, an average starting corner is nothing to scoff at, but he hasn't been a first-round pick. William Jackson, on the other hand, who I was a huge fan when he was coming out of Houston, beast. He's a beast. He was really, really good down the stretch, and I think you have your future starting corner right there. But oppose that, I think the more bodies you can have, the better, especially a guy like Greg Stroman, good length, NFL length, maybe a little bit thin-framed, not a great tackler, but I think he can come in right away and compete for some of the top depth for an outside starting corner job. That doesn't really make sense, but start, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Start as depth for one of the outside jobs and maybe get that starting job at some point down the season. Going to the 5th round, where they have 3 5th-round picks. Starting first at 151, I was selecting quarterback Riley Ferguson from Memphis. When I'm looking at all the QBs in this year's draft class, if Philly didn't have the greatest QB situation in the NFL with our starter and our backup, our MVP caliber starter and our Super Bowl MVP backup, there, I just had to get it in once. If I had to draft a backup that was a project type guy, I think Riley Ferguson would be my guy. He's the kind of player probably could add to gain 10 pounds, which he will do as a backup. But when you look at the positives, I like all the positives. Even though he's a little scrawny type guy, he has a big arm, good accuracy, has that je ne sais quoi. You know what I'm saying? In a big-time game, when Memphis was playing their top competition, he always seemed to find a way to have his strongest game, be it the bowl game, be it, I remember he had a couple good games against, I'm blanking right now. Oh, who'd they play? Was it UCF? I don't know if it was UCF or not. One of the South Florida teams. Either way, best game, watch his UCLA tape. Him and Anthony Miller were their absolute lethal combination, making clutch throws left, right, and center. I like that. I like his gamer style. He has a little Baker Mayfield in him, if you will. Not nearly as pro-ready. So I think if I had to get a QB that's stashed and see if they can develop into something, Riley Ferguson was my guy, and definitely put him in there behind Andy Dalton. Get Matt Barkley out there. Matt, why'd you sign Matt Barkley? You kidding me, Bengals? Go to their second, 5th round pick at 158. I was selecting defensive back Jordan Whitehead from Pitt. More so because I do kind of view him as a nickel corner. And when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, who's their starting nickel? Is it Dennard? Is it Kaveri Russell, who's bounced around from a couple teams, got cut as a rookie? But when you look at a guy like Jordan Whitehead, again, versatility. He has proven time at Pitt as a safety, has the type of skill set to play nickel. It's just a value pick. Getting a guy that can do it all, jack of all trades, in the secondary. He's a pure DB. What you need him to do, he'll do his best and go out there and do it. I've liked this tape for quite a long time. Higher on him than most. And finishing up with the final 5th round pick, 170, have the nagging D tackle / nose tackle, Foley Fatukasi from UConn. I think he's coming in D tackle 3, D tackle 4. They lost their starting nose tackle of their front in Pat Sims. So now maybe it's gonna be my boy Andrew Billings, who I talked about at the top of the video. Maybe they're gonna try to slide Chris Baker in there. Might be Baker, even though Baker was more so a 3-4 end. But he'll definitely get some snaps. But I think thinking long term, just add another competition there. Probably best player available on their board and get a little bit younger on the defensive front. Going to the 7th round, where they have 3 7th round picks. Starting up at 249, have the selecting tight end Ryan Izzo from Florida State. I think he can come in. He's a pure blocking tight end and compete for that tight end 3 spot. Add some competition for Ryan Hewitt, Tyler Kroft. More so, it's not a need whatsoever for the Cincinnati Bengals. Even though there's a little uncertainty with Tyler Eifert, this might only be a band-aid deal. And then next year, they might be going, oh, well, what do we do at quarterback, or what do we do at the tight end spot? This is more so BPA because Ryan Izzo, in a lot of mock drafts, is going between rounds 4 and 6. He's still sitting here in the 7th round, and where, there's no clear successor to Tyler Eifert, even though, Hewitt's been all right. He's kind of versatile, a little bit of a fullback type. Kroft has been decent. Uzuma has been, had a couple games here and there. I think when your best player available on your board's a tight end and you have that slight uncertainty, you might as well, especially when you have this many draft picks. Plus, because of how good of a blocker he is, I think he could find a role somewhere on that offense. Going to the 2nd 7th round pick, 252, it's your Cincinnati Bengals bad boy pick of the draft. We weren't going to go through the entire draft without hitting this, and it's going to be wide receiver Byron Pringle from K-State. Had some off-the-field issues when he was a kid and stuff like that, and basically he's an old man. I think he's like 25, 26 because he went to, I actually think he was in jail or something like that. I don't want to misquote his history, but then he had a kid, and then it seems like he turned everything around and was one of the best deep threats in college football. But I think because of his age and his past, some teams may be a little hesitant to draft on that. We know the Bengals do not give a shit whatsoever. And I think a guy like Byron Pringle offers something. I think he's a little bit better of a deep threat than a Cody Core, than a Josh Malone, even though both those guys are kind of longer and regarded as speedsters. I think ultimately, we got to figure Brandon LaFell's probably going to be on the way out sooner than later, with the assumption that hopefully John Ross can take that role. So then you have AJ Green, John Ross, and then Tyler Boyd in the slot. Then it's just more so get some guys that can make some plays on the outside, be it Cody Core, Josh Malone. You have Erickson, who's more so slot depth. Get a guy like Byron Pringle in the 7th round, has a chance to crack the final 53, bring some special teams ability. Would not be a terrible practice squad spot guy, but even though he's a little bit older, but I think he definitely could challenge for the back end depth at the wide receiver spot for the Bengals. And then finishing up the draft at 253, defensive end Ade Arunya from Tulane, defensive end 4. This guy here is more so your project freak. They like their freaks. They're like Big Papa Pump from wrestling. What was his name? Scott Steiner. Big bad booty daddy. Where my freaks at? Carl Lawson, pretty athletic. Jordan Willis, athletic freak. Guy like Arunya, big project. Straight out of Africa. Tested incredibly well at the combine. Might go higher than this. If you look at his spider chart, which if you don't know what that is, that's just a quick little graph of how well he performed. The fact that this guy here is like 6'6", 260, ran a 4'6", 38.5 vertical jump. Like pretty much, I don't want to. It doesn't sound racist, but pretty much like your typical African migrant type. Like these freak athletes coming from Africa. He's from straight out of Nigeria. I kind of want to think like Ziggy Ansah. Ziggy Ansah wasn't in America a long time. Great athlete, tested incredibly well. And he's definitely just another one. There's probably other guys too that I just can't think off the top of my head. That it's facts and it's a compliment. These guys here have shown to have great tutelage, even though they haven't played football for the longest of times. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And if you can get the technical aspect down, he's one of these guys that's definitely a prime candidate for a practice squad gig. And short term, you might not get immediate impact out of them. But when you look at the defensive end spot on the Bengals with Dunlap in there at starting, you have Jordan Willis, Michael Johnson, Carl Lawson, he could find his way in the back end of the final 53 just because he is that high of a ceiling. Now, it's going to take some developing, but I don't know if Terrell Lawson's a really good DC, he might be able to get the most and have him want to stay on the final 53 and get him some rotational reps as an edge rusher. So there you go, guys. That is your 7th-round Cincinnati Bengals mock draft. If you agree or disagree with any of the picks you saw here today, let me know in the comment section below. If you have your own Cincinnati Bengals mock draft, let me know about it. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.